likes a controversial title, so this one will be wonderful. So I'd like to introduce you to my two panelists today. We'll have engineer Rawaf Bourisli, who is the vice chairman of Action Hotels. Please come on up here. Thank you. Please, wherever you'd like. And Greg Osteen, CEO of United Hospitality Management. Please take a seat in the middle as well. Wonderful. So as the title says, perhaps both of your companies, while being very established, very dynamic, and very good at what you do, you may indeed be hidden slightly to the general public because, of course, your name is a trade name rather than a consumer brand for most of them. So maybe starting with you, Engineer Rawaf, would you just briefly tell the audience your footprint of where you are involved in hospitality and under which model?
Yes, thank you very much. Actually, for Action Hotels, we are an owner-operator of hotels across the globe, from Australia to the Middle East to Europe. We own and operate, so we combine both the ownership and the asset management side, and of course we operate under international brands and operators. And we started as an investor into the hospitality sector by developing individual assets, and was being operated by the operators themselves. But eventually, we have actually grown up to become an asset manager ourselves, and we asset manage our own assets. And right now, we offer that service to third-party clients.
Very well. Greg, you guys came into the region not out of nowhere, but very sudden, very impactful. Would you share a little bit with the audience again? I had to admit, even though I knew that you existed as an entity, what you all did was not clear to me either until you guys finally removed the cloak from the hidden power.
Well, thank you. And the benefit of going second is that our story is very similar. We started as an owner, developer, investor. The brands managed most of our hotels. Today, we manage most of our hotels in partnership with the brands. So one of our affiliates in the parent company owns most of what we manage. We do manage some for third party. We want to grow for other owners, and we want to grow that. But we were established actually last year. We have hotels in in Europe, mostly Portugal. Here in the Middle East, we're in Kuwait and in Dubai, and we're expanding into other regions, and we're working on partnerships in other parts of the world as well. I like to think of us, many of you probably flew here, maybe you flew on Emirates. You picked the flight because you either like the brand or you like the time that arrived or the price. But how many of you thought about the engine, right? We're the engine. We make it go, right? And if we do our jobs well, nobody will even know we're there. If we mess up, you'll definitely know we're there, right? So we're like the engine. Like most people can't name the 3 companies that make jet engines because you don't think about it. That's how you should think about us. We're partners with the brand, but we get the most out of the brand.
Both of you have chosen this model, right? So you obviously have engines behind you that say, yeah, I can invest, yes, I can own, yes, I can manage. And I know at least in the context of your broader background, you have an entire conglomerate behind you that could do a lot of other things as well. And both of you have indeed chosen, for the time being at least, to say, well, the one thing that we could do, but we're not doing it, is to have a brand. Perhaps again, Engineer Rawaf, starting with you again, are those discussions that you keep on having? What's some of the reflections that basically have led to the fact of saying that you're very successful in managing hotels, but you've chosen not to do it under your own brand? You've chosen to basically give part of the pie to someone else. Why is that?
Well, it's a very interesting question, actually. Thank you very much. Yes, asset managers like us, they shy away from actually creating their own brands because, creating your own brand is a totally different ballgame. So as the hospitality industry got more sophisticated over the years, you cannot actually be the whole player, but you can offer services into different segments of the spectrum of the hospitality industry. Having your own brand will actually put you in a different position than being an owner, than being an asset manager. And we can see right now, actually, most of the hotel operators, brands themselves, are actually moving into a franchise model because that's where they can ensure growth and they can ensure value of the brand itself. As Greg mentioned, you fly on an airline. Imagine that airline will have more flights and more airplanes, so that will create a better customer loyalty, and it will create a better customer experience because you'll find the same airline or the same hotel, whether you check in Europe, in Portugal, or you check in Dubai, or you check in Melbourne, Australia. So specialty is a very is a very special sector within the hospitality industry, and we rather actually stay in the area where we know the best and we can serve our customers the best.
So you are both, and maybe directing this towards Greg, and it's still bothering me that I can't think of the third engine manufacturer. I can think of two, but not the third one. I'll come to you.
Okay.
But you are an owner, and therefore every time that you acquire or have a repositioning of an asset, you have the choice between I'll manage myself and brand by someone else, I give it to someone else perhaps to manage. I'm not sure if you know that as well,
Yeah.
do that as well. So you are, I would say the branded operators, and I think you have great relations with Hyatt, with Marriott, with some of the other ones as well. They are your competitor, your supplier, and your partner.
That's right.
How do you reconcile that, and how does that play out? It's like, where do you see this going? And it's like, are you guys becoming more and more competitive, or are you finding more and more a model that works for everyone?
That's a great question, and it's largely situational, right? So a brand has value in their connection with the customer, the emotional connection, right? It has value in what they stand for and what they deliver, but they also have value in location. Are they everywhere that you want to go? To your point, right? It's great to have a brand, but if the brand only exists in 5 or 6 places as opposed to 500 or 600, that becomes a part of the decision process as to which brand you want to have. So we have a partnership. We own and manage, well, our separate entity owns, my entity manages, the Hyatt Regency in Lisbon. We built it. It's the only Hyatt in all of Portugal. So it was a brave step to be the first, but it's a great partnership, right? And we do similar things with Marriott, with other brands. And so each one is a little different. You look at what does that brand already have in the market where you are, what strengths do they have, what do the other brands bring, and then what can you bring? We have clusters here where we have multiple brands from different parent companies, but we cluster some of the services because geographically they're close.
Does it inhibit you from being, or can you be an effective clusterer if you are spread across a broad number of brands, or how does that work?
So yes and no. So obviously there are some things like finance and engineering and maintenance that you can cluster regardless of the brand, and there are others that you cannot. And so it's a decision based on geography and the brand and the talent that you have.
Engineer Rawaf, you have, I think, more relations with one of the large operators, right? Seems
Yes.
to be your strategic partners. I believe it's Accor and some of its brands. If you could also share a little bit, I mean, you obviously have great insights being a long-established Kuwaiti company, great insights into GCC, etc. Do the operators follow your lead as well, or the branded operators as well, when you have discussion around where the journey goes next? Or are you very much a supplier that awaits that somebody basically engages with you? So are you leading, or are you following in your growth?
Well, it's both, actually, because both the operator and the owner are working together for the growth itself. You cannot say that one is leading the other. They're working actually hand by hand, because an operator by itself cannot actually get into a market without the owner side, and the owner cannot actually go within the operator, being backed up by the operators. What's interesting actually within our story, which I think is different than bit other asset manager, is that we started on the business management or business budget hotels. So you have a lot of operators and asset managers who actually specialize in the 5-star and the luxury market. However, we don't do that. We do actually the 3 and 4-star market, because that's the sector where we understand. It's probably Greg will agree. It's a total different ball game when you're running a 5-star than you're running a 3-star. So a branded 3-star, of course. So that's the edge that we have other than other competitors, that we understand the budget market itself in the region and in the region where we operate as well, like in Australia and partly in Europe. So we are focused. We had a lot of opportunities we looked at, but we always maintained our focus into that sector of the market.
If you look at a little bit at your growth strategy to the extent that you're happy to share is, are you going to try to be more of an owner and operator, or are you going to try to build out the operating white label or, third-party operator? It's like, when you look at the market and saying here in the region and elsewhere, that's how we would like to grow, do you have any preference there?
Yes, for example, in the region over here, we would like to grow more as an asset manager. Because that's where our strength is, and there is where there's a lot of synergy with our team. So we can actually offer a better service for our clients. But however, in Europe, which we're actively, and the US, we're looking at right now, we are going to go in as owners because we don't have the critical mass to work as an asset manager.
Greg, similar question. I mean, you are obviously hungry and bullish about the region. Through which models or through which strategic imperatives are you trying to grow your portfolio here?
Sure. So we will look at any market that's growing and that has a need, right? And where we can add value, right? We don't have the infrastructure in certain markets to go in and really add value unless we go in large. So if you think about a market like India, huge, lots of opportunity, right? You think about other parts of the Middle East where there are opportunities for groups like us to go in to invest, to go in to manage, to go into asset manage, really just wherever we can add value through the platform that we have and then the platform that we want to grow. But what we don't want to do is be a one-off and just go into an area and just have one kind of on an island, because then you're not really delivering the best value for the owner.
Slightly flipping the lens. So we've talked about your investment strategies, the relationship with the brands. So tell us a little bit, Greg, on talent attraction, right? So a lot of us work with young students or young graduates or young professionals. They tend to always be very attracted to the brand. And indeed, often when I have a CV in front of me, I'm saying, oh, okay, Four Seasons and Kempinski's and Man, etc. And whether it should or not is a different question, but it does make an impression.
Right.
How do you deal with talent? It's like what can you offer your young management talent to a different way or a different degree than the traditional brands?
So if you think about what a white label operator is, right? We rent talent. That's what we do. We hire, attract, develop, retain, and then rent our talent to owners. In many cases, we're also the owner, but we're growing the white label side of the business. So how are we different from the brands? You can work on any brand that we currently manage, which are most of the brands, right? So if you're coming out of school or you're early in your career and you want to learn as much as you can, if you go with one brand, you'll learn a lot about that brand, but not so much about the others. And so it gives you an opportunity, especially early in your career, to grow and learn about the value of each individual and different brand. It gives you more career opportunities as well in terms of if you want to move around the world.
Is it also part of your model that, with sufficient planning, you can move on from the asset management side into the operations side, into the capital side of it? Are you perhaps to a larger degree able to give that 365-degree journey?
Absolutely. And my career has been kind of the same. Right? I've done a little bit of everything. I've been a lender, I've been an asset manager, I've been an owner, I've been an operator. And so it is something where when we sit down with an owner to talk about managing their asset, it's not just managing the day-to-day, that's the biggest part of it. But we can also help them on the asset management side, on the lending side, on the consulting side. Without really, it's just part of what we bring to the table. Right?
And we all always have to say we don't get enough talent, but do you find that fundamentally you get the access to the type of profiles and that they stay with you long enough to actually have that journey?
That's a great question. I can tell you, so I moved here in February. I was in the States before. This region recovered from COVID a lot faster and rebounded a lot better in terms of attracting talent. I know, especially in the States and in other markets, COVID changed the type of people who were interested in the hospitality career. It's not an easy career. It's a lot of long hours, and COVID really tested folks' commitment to the job. And so we had to start over in a couple of markets.
Engineer Rawaf, same question, but you come much more from a GCC-based source. Is like, who are your young talents, and how do you keep their professional development up to par with the branded operators?
Well, it is the most difficult, currently the most difficult task is actually to manage the talent, whether it's in the GCC or worldwide. As Greg has mentioned, the COVID effect on the industry itself has made a lot of individuals shy away from hospitality because of the COVID issue. So it is very difficult to get talent. It is very difficult to maintain talent right now. However, what is our edge is that we as an owner-based operator, asset manager-based, that we have a lot of our tenant and staff who grew up with us. So yes, as you mentioned, in the CV, it will make a big difference when you work for an operator. However, with an asset manager, you would have more experience because you would actually be exposed to a better spectrum of the hospitality industry, and you will have the ability to grow faster than with an operator. Yet, as I agree that it started to come back right now, but in the last, I would say, 2 years, all of the operators and the asset managers have suffered from the lack of talent in the hospitality industry. But it's getting now back on track, and we can see that recovery has happened all over the world. I would say 90% all the market has recovered. And as far as the GCC, we actually have recovered, and we are now in better results than pre-COVID 20.
Excellent. So we've got about 3 minutes, and we'll still maybe take a couple of questions. But you said you're relatively new player to the region, even though not a new player in hospitality.
Sure.
Is it your first FHS or second? Is it your first FHS conference?
Actually,
Or?
I went to one, but it's my first panel at
Right,
FHS
first
because I
panel.
was a late.
So just give you the opportunity, perhaps, like, who would you like to come reach out to you over the next 1.5 days? You have a booth out there, engineer. Do you have a
Yes.
booth out there? So both of you have a booth out there.
Yep.
Like, who would you like to engage? What would you be happy if some people came to engage with you over the next 1.5 years?
Thank you for that. It's a great question. Yeah, we have a booth. We're G18. We have most of my team. Actually, they're not at the booth now. They're sitting out here. So anyone who has a project that they're building or that they own where they're thinking about changing the management, or they're looking for an asset manager, a developer, we also do that. So anyone who has a project where they're looking for help, right?
Very cool.
Whether they're building or buying.
So maybe if I can just ask you to quickly stand up, turn around, and wave so that people recognize you, spread the work
Yes.
a little bit. Perfect. So here's your team that you can reach
And I
out.
think my boss is over here somewhere, but the lights are so bright I can't see beyond the first row.
It's shining there.
Yeah.
Engineer, same question, please. Who would you like to meet, or who would you like to engage with at this conference?
Well, it's the same.
Same.
So, yes.
Perfect.
So forever.
Are you-
I think our booths are actually
are
close.
close.
I think it's
So
around the corner, yes.
it's a good healthy competition. So the same
course.
clients actually can pick and choose. And also I have my team here, but I think the lights are here, so I can see
We have
some
somebody
of
there.
them.
We
Yes,
can barely see you, so apologies for
Yeah.
that. But
So it's an opportunity. We would like to talk to owners who are actually, whether they are at the beginning of their investment or actually currently in operation. We can help them by advice. We can help them by project management, even on financing side. So we can do all of that.
fantastic. With that, the clock has just switched to red. Do we have time for a couple of questions, if there are questions? Please, if you have some questions, the team there has the microphones. I cannot see anything, so... there's no questions, then we may actually have, if we drag it out another 14 seconds, the most precise end to this panel there is.
You are very Swiss.
I am very
You
Swiss,
are
yes.
very
Indeed.
Swiss. We have 6
So-
seconds left. Would you
Careful,
like to throw
careful.
out a
We
pitch?
thank you all and have a great conference. Done.
Done. On the nose.